Hello, Dr. Cinema here for the Movie Face Off Science Fiction Tournament. First round, first tier. Now, in previous movie face offs, they've usually been 5 rounds, and whoever has the most rounds won wins. Now, for this tournament, these movie face off rounds are going to act a little bit differently. We are, of course, going to look at story, characters, visuals, but the main two determining factors would be story, which I just said, reception of the film, how the audiences and critics react to it, and but most importantly, the themes of each movie and how they relate to what science fiction is supposed to be about. Now, like I said before, there are going to be 48 contestants in this entire tournament, and for the very first round of this tournament, we're going to be looking at two movies that are both considered to be two of the greatest sequels ever made in cinema history. Now, we're going to determine which one of them is the better science fiction film. On this corner, we have Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Over on this corner, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Let the face-off begin. Let us start with the story and characters. Empire Strikes Back sees the return of Luke Skywalker, a Jedi in training, Princess Leia, leader of the Resistance, and of course Han Solo, who is helping both of them. And they're going against Darth Vader, who is the second in command of the Empire, and who wants to convince Luke to join the dark side. And it's a pretty exciting story, appealing to both younger audiences and more mature audiences at the same time. Now we have Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. We receive the return of characters such as Captain Kirk and Spock, and the return of an old TV character on the big screen for the first time, Khan himself. Now, this movie is following the release of Star Trek, the motion picture, which did pretty poorly with critics and audiences, so the fact that this movie was pretty good considering that they took 4 script ideas and turned them into one movie. That's actually kind of impressive. Now, for this Star Trek picture, like I said, we see the return of a TV character, Khan, who was making his first on-screen appearance, and he's coming back from 15 years of exile, which Captain Kirk, I believe, exiled him. I don't know. I really didn't watch the show. But Khan is back, and he's going to use terraforming as a way to get back at the Star Trek Enterprise. Now, both of these stories are engaging from a story perspective, having emotion, depth, as well as fun, entertaining action as well. Now, with Star Wars, we get the big twist of finding out that Luke is the son of Darth Vader, and in Star Trek, we've got the emotional shock of Spock being killed on screen. Oh yeah, major spoilers in this tournament. Sorry. Now, let's take a look at audience receptions to both of these films. With Star Wars, like I said, it's now considered one of the greatest sequels of all time, if not the greatest sequel of all time. And fans were pretty happy about it. I mean, Star Wars is probably the number one dominant force in pop culture today. And this is where some of the most major scenes, the most memorable moments are from. And of course, critics were also pretty happy, saying that it had enough stuff for younger audiences as well as more mature audiences, such as like turmoil, moral conflict, as well as just fun action. Yeah. And Star Trek II, of course, the reception was a lot more favorable with audiences and critics, saying that this was such more improvement over the last film. And it's also considered one of the greatest sequels of all time, kicking up the emotional impact, actually being more loyal to the show and what the actual premise of Star Trek was about, as opposed to what the first film did, was try to be more like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which obviously didn't work. Now, the main thing that's going to determine this round is the themes of each movie and how they relate to what the science fiction genre is supposed to be about. Now, there are varying degrees of what science fiction actually means, but the most general consensus is that it's a work of fiction focused on either ideas/technologies in a futuristic setting, and sort of like the moral, social, ethical, and even environmental impacts and consequences these things could have. with Star Wars, it's a great movie. It's a great franchise, but let's be honest. If it wasn't for the lightsabers, the planet stuff, and all that, it'll probably just be another like fantasy epic. I mean, there's really not much talk about science fiction. It's more just fighting against the Empire, and even though I don't really see the Empire doing anything bad when it's not against the Rebel Army. So it's really just more of like an action adventure kind of movie with not really a whole lot to do with science fiction genre in regards to like moral, social, ethical consequences. Now, Star Trek 2, like I said, deals with terraforming, and basically, the simple definition of terraforming is taking a Earth-like planet that has no life on it and changing the atmosphere and such to make it more habitable like the planet, like Earth. And of course, Khan gets hands on and tries to use it against like Captain Kirk and his crew to try to attack and destroy him. And this is again more of an action event. This is action adventure, but it also has something to do with terraforming. It's actually trying to deal with ideas and like what those kinds of consequences from those ideas, or how those consequences could potentially affect everyone. And let's be honest, Star Wars is great with action. It's great with like story, but Star Trek is always been about ideas, technologies, and as far as actually being a part of the science fiction community, I'm going to have to go with Star Trek 2 on this. I mean, Star Wars is great. I prefer Star Wars overall as a general movie, but when it comes to science fiction, it's quite obviously Star Trek. So, sorry, Star Wars. Star Trek 2 takes this. Shut up, Quaji. I just said I like Star Wars better. Come on. Sorry, he really hates Star Trek. I've never really seen an episode, but respect. I mean, it's pretty popular. But yeah, Star Trek 2 wins the first round of this tournament. So, this is going to be what it's like. Some disappointing results can come out of this, but we're going to look for the best science fiction picture, not the best action picture. So, stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe. Oh, and here's a hint for what comes in the next round. Both of the next two contestants are similar to Alien, except one's black and white, and the other has Kurt Russell and John Carpenter. See you next time for the Science Fiction Movie Face-Off Tournament.